Okay, join me again now as we try to search back through our ancestry and try to find where we've all come from. That's probably the greatest search of all is trying to find where we've been. That's what I'm doing. I'm trying to find trying to find. That song often comes to mind whenever I look through this stuff. If you'll listen to it, it brings you right to the Arabic area and everything that happened. It kind of was like their search for themselves, kind of like the Beatles went to the Dalai Lama or whatever. They went back to the motherland of it all and tried to find where it came from, and apparently they found something. But I've got a whole video on Kashmir and everything. It raises my arm to think of it, but that's not what we're talking about today. So let's look on. So the planet Saturn, I mean, it's the neatest planet we've got in our solar system, and it's got the rings around it and everything. It's just totally unique. It's got its own moons that trap around it. But one unique thing they found whenever they flew near it is it has this weird pattern on its polar surface. It's a little bit more than twice the size of the Earth. In fact, each little flat edge is about the size of the Earth. And this hexagon pattern, hopefully you can see it well there at the top of your screen. That's a little hexagon pattern. It's kind of like a stop sign, but no, it's the hexagon pattern. And, that extrapolates a Jewish star. The odd thing about that is that the planet's name is Jupiter, and Pater is father in Greek. And so it sounds to me like Jew father. And they're the ones that have that star. That their God, their father, has this same similar star pattern onto it. You can find polar anomalies, and they try to recreate it, but they can't get it to look like the one on the right. They can get it to look like the one's other, but they can't get it to look on the right. They can make computer animated fluid dynamics, and it takes this real complex interturbulent atmosphere exactly at that little blue line outside of the solid blue that's a jet stream that's going faster than. One interesting effect, they find that it almost goes as fast as the planet is spinning around, but not quite. It lags a little bit. And I wonder if it's causing a lag in the planet. It's something that we really have to set some probes out there and look at, and eventually one of these days I guess we'll have this and we'll have this extra knowledge. But once the satellites went by the planet in the first place and started giving us pictures. I mean, we had no idea about this, and I don't know how the ancients knew about this. How do they equate Jupiter and have the Jewish star and all these temples that are the temple of Baal Jupiter? Greeks call them Baal Jupiter, and it's got the planet or the hexagon on top of the planet marked. There's the picture of it. It swirls clouds up way high in the atmosphere when it does and almost gives a circular appearance, but the whole guts of it is a hexagon. It looks just like this, a little smaller in representation to the planet. Apparently, I heard that they couldn't make it the right size for the planet and even have it work out right. Even in a computer simulation, which seemed odd to me. They had to make it oversized and make the winds stronger than the ones that they measure. And then they could pull off something that looks like it. But you also, I hear, if you look at the center of that, it has to keep swirling and turning off and swirling and turning off and swirling and turning off. But a geometric pattern like this could possibly, with jet streams and things along that line, pull off something that tries to make a circular pattern on the top. But to believe that somehow it would exactingly pull off a shape like this due to some inner buffeting and turning back in has got to be a far-fetched notion. It really does. But incredible correlation here, though, that I'm having with the whole thing is that this shape is the center of the Jewish star, which we'll go back into it after here, and we'll go back into these temples at Baalbek and places that are the ones that the Jewish people were worshiping the incorrect God at, and Canaanites and things, and they have the bull worship and Taurus and Jupiter worship. Okay, this is a little bit difficult to read somewhat. The S's look like funny F's, or just like snakes, actually. And that is the reason for the S looking like that in most ways. You'll find it in a few other places that does have a small little S to it too. So it's funny why they use that, but it's that Greek thing where U's look like V's and things like that. Anyhow, this says, whoso not see the history of Abraham and Sarah under the names of Israel and Anabreth, and the emulation of Isaac under the name of feud, and the original of this son-sacrificing divinity to have been the unwarrantable imitation of Abraham. Now, we're just going to stop there for a second. So you look up Israel, and literally the Phoenicians, the name of the star Jupiter was Israel. Okay? And they called it Chun, Chiun, Kine. Anyhow, not sure how you pronounce that, but in the Bible they want you to make it seem like, oh, it's like chining to images, like, oh God, to the wrong image whenever they do it. But, well, of course it is if you're looking at it from the other point of view. Anyhow, it says under the name of Israel and Anabreth. Well, Anabreth is the deification of Inanna, and she's the morning star, and this is Venus, and the star Venus, and which you see is the morning star and the evening star, and it pops up and down, and they're measuring out those. And Israel has the symbol of the hexagram for Saturn, and Inanna, Isis, Ishtar has the symbol for Venus, until a certain point, whenever a pact is made, and then you see her with the crescent moon situation, looks very much like a Muslim appearance, and I'll get to where that comes from too. But here we have, it says, and the immolation of Isaac. Well, this is whenever Abraham killed Isaac. So when he sacrificed him. By the way, there are versions of the old Bible where he actually goes through with it and does kill his son. He doesn't get stopped by the angel. I can show that to you in another video. But so there's a lot of people that go with that too. Anyhow, it says, in the emulation of Isaac under the name of feud. Well, who is feud? Well, feud is actually the god El's son, and he ends up being Yahweh. And feud has powers of pestilence and disease and flies and maggots, and can make the wind blow pretty hard and do a few other things, but that's about it. He's kind of a puff and blow kind of thing. He doesn't really like charge over one thing. You know, he's like one of those lesser divinities like the Olympians have, where one of them's named Feud, and you know, one of them's named Envy, and the other one's named Happiness. And Happiness and Envy got into a fight because Envy was envious of her dress, and she's Envy, and then so it tries to teach you a moral. It's along that line, but literally this guy's name was Feud, and this is Baal, the son of El, and I'm guessing it's his offspring who they actually sacrificed. So let's go to the next paragraph real quick, and then we'll jump. But he says, but what was the sun? And it says, was the sun worshipped as an idol? No, otherwise. Yes, except I am deceived. We find another manner of worship described by Amos in chapter 5:26, where it says of Moloch, "But ye have borne the tabernacle of your Moloch, and Chiun your images," there's that word again, "the star of your god, Ramfan," they have it in the other versions, "which you have taken for yourself." So, yeah, they worship the sun god, and they did it, during festivals and things like that, and to bring in festivals. But the main god that they were worshiping was the Chiun, the star, which was Saturn. And yeah, let's continue. An explanation on the confusion on who they're worshiping at which time, whether it's God or Satan, and Roman influences on what they thought was going on. And they kind of make an apology for it in this next round. They say, upon the altar, they had the devil had his preferred burning by the vegetable sacrifices, as God had his propitiatory or mercy seat. So had the devil his sacros tripodas, or a sacred tripod, his oracles from which he would speak to them and served him. This solemnly was performed by the Romans in the honor of the sun god instead. So it's performed by the Israelites in honor of their Moloch, who performed this, and so it was misinterpreted as the sun. To add to the pomp of the state of the solemnity of it, both the Romans and the Israelites caused great hordes of chariots to be led up and down, and horses were consecrated by the sun and by the Romans, giving rise to the idea that there was always the sun god they were trying to worship at that time, but they found out it was Jupiter. Look at the Saturn symbolism. There's the Freemason square. And you can see in this old cemetery, there's Saturn. Look, you see it? Ever since the beginning of time, the world itself is based on magic and mathematics. Once we figured out mathematics, it really got the world going. But where does this mathematics come from? Where do we get it from? Do we get it out of the Bible? Well, that's where sacred codes come from. That's where sacred knowledge of all this comes from. That's, ancient gods gave us our knowledge. These ancient Agigi, the ancient astronauts, if you will, uh, the ancient gods from Sumeria brought all knowledge to Earth. These black cubes are around the world in important places and shown in important aspects. Look at the cube on the head of these priests. These knowledge cubes, these square block cubes that look like the Holy of Holies area, again recreated over and over again. Well, you find that the cube on the inside of a hex can be 3D represented as the cube. If you flay a cube all the way open, i.e. cut a cardboard box open, you end up with a cross. It's all symbolism and part of the same matter. It's this cube. This New Jerusalem, this cube of knowledge, this wow, this, game cube, really? But Transformers, the cube, the Borg that attacks you, the cube that's in Hellraiser, the cubed knowledge, the meditation room itself at the United Nations has a cube. Look at this old cartoon that describes 9/11. We've got now the cube is a memorial to 9/11. ancient symbolism of the church from 1,000 years. It's all Saturn worship.
Comments are, I do not wish to offend, I wish to educate, because I believe that's what the divine presence in the universe would want, is truth. Know the truth and it will set you free.
We sure hope so.
And this is my all-time favorite, because love how they take Jesus and they crucify him with three fingers out. Isn't that real nice of them? I mean, they couldn't stop.
Look at the symbolism, though, here that he keeps showing where they have the two fingers that are pointing out. I guess we can't quite see it in the video. Let's see if I can get it in line. You can see his two fingers pointing out. There's two fingers pointing up. It's like a peace sign, but not spread, but together. Two fingers, always shown as a symbol of meaning something. It's a divinity situation. It's a divinity symbol. They show it here. They show it there. They show it in all the occult stuff. People are using this symbol. You see priests use this symbol. You see it in all kinds of old paintings. It's always the old paintings. It's paintings from Michelangelo and stuff that you get this gesture from. The hand of Sabius, which is actually linked to Dionysus or Adonis, has this gesture to him, and it has a whole symbolism with it. The little pine cone on his thumb. Here's a priest giving you the symbol. He makes this symbol, he draws a cross. Here's the Pope. I don't know if you can see it down there. It says that he's wearing his Saturn hat. There's a Pope's Saturn hat. It's represented by the ring around it. Well, it's a sunbonnet. Yeah, well, some things have other symbolism to them, too. Look at the cross here. In fact, the swastika itself is an old symbol from the Middle East, from Persia, and it has a connection to the cube. But look at this. Here's Pope Benedict when he was a Nazi. Strangely, the Nazis were linked up to the church pretty well. They were very much Gnostics. They were looking at all these Gnostic symbols, trying to get information out of it. You've heard Hitler digging into the occult, trying to get things, swastikas, black sun symbols, symbols of Saturn. You notice this looks very... Here's your Freemason symbol. That symbol of seal of Saturn is actually a Freemason symbol. Here's the hexagon vortex on the top of Saturn itself. You can see the diagram inside of it. A cube is the inside or 3D representation of a hexagram. Here are people worshiping at the mosque in time lapse, and you can see how it very much mimics the ring of Saturn, the cube of Saturn idea. This power vortex that supposedly feeds everything. This star encroached in a circle. Everybody thinks it's the moon. There's no way a moon could be in the middle of the star being in the middle of the moon. This is Saturn with its ring around it. There was a primordial time whenever that's the way it looked to everybody whenever they could see it through telescopes, that it had that all-seeing eye look. It had that symbolism of the crouched crescent. The crescent is the rings around Saturn. It's the extra rings. It's the holiness of Saturn. It's the halo that's on the top of all kinds of paintings and things that are around people's backs. Today you would worship the sun, the moon, and Saturn. You can see this. The sun, the moon, and Saturn at this ancient temple. Very ancient temple. If you ever look into occult circles, you'll find out that they call on the sun, the moon, and the stars. I'll show you a video of that. The sun, the moon, and the stars. The star is Saturn. So that's like a real satanic ritual. They started out by invoking the sun and the moon and then that star. And it's whichever star you're worshiping, under, whether it's the 5-pointed star or the 6-pointed star. So I started trying to find a pattern and see if I could find a pentagram or a 5-pointed star or anything over in that area. And I took some of the major cities and lined them up. And I used Baalbek in Cairo and places that were, like Heliopolis, and then ran a line through that, and it ran right into another city, and I found out that place actually had a temple on it that was a temple to Baal. And then, so I tried to find all these temples to Baal that I could find, and you can see them with the little triangles that are on there. And then I came up with this. Now, I can't give credit to this. This is another guy's work that he's turned and lined up things and made the little video thing off of it, getting on Google Earth and doing the lines. But, and whenever I had it, I only had 3 of them, and I was going to try to draw back lines back over and see if I could make the point. I had no idea. Mine was going to be this big. I had no idea that that was just the center, because all you really see is like that much of the thing, and then the rest is in the water here. And it truly is going to be massive. Another odd thing, I looked at this right here, and across here is 660 miles on Google Earth, 666 miles perhaps. I mean, there it is. That's odd. There's another one, by the way, up in the Celtic region. If you look at my Celtic cross, it'll show you one that's up there too. This is getting quite odd. The one up there is a 5-pointed star. This is a hexagram right here on the ground, built out of Baalbek temples.